What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts and producers, Jordan Nahisi.
Joined by Corporate Mo. He's making a return.
Corporate Mo, Uniform Mo is back, y'all. Corporate Mo is back. But it's still going to be a pretty uncensored episode. So I'm just letting y'all know now. It ain't going to be corporate friendly, if you catch my drift. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Number one. Number two, if you are streaming on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to give our show 5 stars. Be sure to subscribe to the show so that you can know when new episodes are dropping, because we have been producing a pretty big amount of between culture quickies and episodes. You don't know what's going to drop and when. So just keep subscribing and keep streaming the show. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because that's how we get the show to have more visibility. And thank you guys so much for joining the the All In space this past Sunday. We had a lot of fun. We said a lot of jokes that I'm probably not going to say on air because but we had a lot of fun. And of course, for All Out, we'll be back, which is going to be this Sunday, I believe. It's going to be live from Chicago, but be sure to tap in and build community with us per usual. There's been a lot happening in the world of wrestling, and I think we all can acknowledge that this past week. We're going to start off with probably the most somber news. Late last week, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday, Triple H sent out a tweet saying that he had received a phone call from WWE Hall of Famer Mike Rotunda to convey the news that then WWE superstar Bray Wyatt had passed away at the age of 36. This was obviously followed up by a series of tributes on SmackDown, on Raw, and even on All In, as the wrestling world kind of mourned the loss of easily one of the most creative superstars in the history of WWE. I know that it kind of shook me up to the point where I couldn't even really talk in the group chat. I was just so shocked. But I kind of wanted to know, kind of, Mo, kind of where you stood on his passing, just kind of like how you felt, and ultimately, what is the legacy of Bray Wyatt?
Yeah, when I got the news for Bray Wyatt, I think I was like in the middle of the gym, and I just remember just scrolling through my fucking phone, and I saw the news, revealed by Triple H, at least for me. And at that point, like, it just felt like time just froze. It just froze. It didn't feel like it was real, and the timing of it was just odd. It seemed like it didn't make sense, and my brain immediately like thought the worst, because I'm like, wait, Bray's not that old, A, but B, as soon as I thought about Bray Wyatt, I just thought about Brody, and I was just like, dude, like, what the fuck? Like, we cannot catch a break. We cannot catch a break as wrestling fans for the last 3 years. So we done lost Terry the day before, all right? And we lost Jay Briscoe. We done lost Brody. Losing Bray Wyatt, it was not only random, but it hurt me in multiple ways. It hurt me because, like, he is such a phenomenal talent that was not properly used. You know what I mean? And I think that he didn't have the greatest run coming back, but we were still hoping that maybe when he came back, he might have refreshed, he might have revamped himself or whatnot. And we just got clearance that he was going to come back, that he was going to come back. That he didn't have that specific set day, but he was cleared 2 weeks prior. So again, to me, I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I'm thinking the worst possible thing, considering what happened to Jay Briscoe. My brain's thinking the worst. I'm like, oh my God, like, was someone behind the wheel? You know what I mean? Was it self-inflicted? Because I know Bray Wyatt had been pretty transparent with us about, like, mental health and whatnot, and that's why a lot of fans had, like, connected with him from the jump. I also was like, I don't know. All I know is that this is a father of like 3, 4, 5 kids. He's fairly young. This is before age 40, if I'm not mistaken. It was age 36 that he passed away from. Yeah. I was so distraught. I just couldn't stop crying. I was to a point where I just put my phone down because I couldn't. Like, I felt like a tightness in my chest, and it just felt like in that moment we all kind of came together once again as a wrestling community. I feel like it affected us, and I felt almost like a terrible person slightly, because I was like, damn, I was kind of shitting on this man's run. and now he's gone. I'm just wishing he was here, not just because he's gone, no, but because Bray Wyatt has so much in the tank to give to wrestling, and in such a short time that he was here. I feel like, God damn it, these fucking headphones! I'm trying to cut monologue here. Uh, nah. In his short time, Bray connected to fans in a very different way. I know that we constantly compare him to being like the next coming of The Undertaker or being some weird hybrid of Taker and Kane or whatnot. But I thought Bray like brought something very different to not only the company but to the fans because he was so raw. He was so raw, and the way he would like string along his hardships into these characters that he created and kind of put us in a different mythical world where he expressed himself, it was just different. It was something so different that I felt like as fans we kind of needed and we definitely could relate to. And I feel like he was trying to give us more elements of those type of things with his current character, but we just never got a chance to see it come full circle,
Very true.
And it's just frustrating. It's very frustrating because then it made me think as well, damn, WWE must be sitting there thinking they could put anyone else on the shelf and that they could come back to them whenever they can. And it just put into perspective to me that like you really could have these people employed and see them smiling and put on a damn good match one day and they could be gone the next day.
Yeah.
It was just insane to me. It was so insane. I cannot imagine how how Braun Strowman must feel, how Eric Rowan must be feeling, how JoJo's feeling. I can't put into words what they're going through. But my condolences goes to them, I should say, to his family members, to his children. It sucks that now they're going to be fathers. It sucks that JoJo is now going to be a widow. Shout out to WWE, by the way, by trying to direct all the merch sales for Bray Wyatt's merchandise to just get sold to helping out the family. But it's just such a sick and sad situation, man.
Yeah.
R.I.P. because he to me was definitely a legend in the making that had so much to give, but we just never had a chance to see him truly peak to what he could have possibly have been. What do you think about all of this, Jordan? Walk us through.
So, I think the first thing that kind of popped up into my mind when I heard of his passing was that you never really know what someone is going through, right? And I think that, once again, we were kind of critical of that pitch black match at the Royal Rumble between him and LA Knight because we kind of just expected so much from Bray Wyatt, considering the caliber of talent that he is. But if I'm being completely honest, first and foremost, secondly, I guess I can say, is my heart goes out to JoJo and them kids. I can only I can't even imagine what it's like to be a widow. I can't imagine what it's like to be a child who has unexpectedly lost their father. And so I think that my heart goes out to them, and I'm sending them all my love and all my well wishes. But when we're talking about Bray Wyatt, it's interesting because while he wasn't utilized properly, the glimpses of Bray that we had gotten over the past 10 to 13 years have been nothing short of phenomenal and special. I mean, we can talk about his feud with The Undertaker. We can talk about his feud with John Cena in the Firefly Funhouse match. We can talk about even him and Randy. You know what I mean? Like, and there were also kind of so many moments in between that served as very, very valuable moments that he was a part of. Whether we can talk about WrestleMania 32 and how in the middle of the ring with The Rock put him over. Right, that was a moment. We can think about the debut of The Fiend when he just first popped out with that mask and that entrance against Finn Balor at SummerSlam. We can talk about him and Daniel Bryan getting into a feud. We can talk about his feud with Roman Reigns. You know what I mean? There were so many moments that Bray Wyatt gave to us that were such a testament of how incredible he was, of how creative he was. And I think that I think that it's interesting because you consider him a legend in the making. I consider him a legend because if this was all from the mind of Bray Wyatt, We're talking about someone who is easily, if not the most creative superstar that WWE had to offer, right? Like, I love The Undertaker. The Undertaker is someone that I hold at a very high regard, but the character of The Undertaker was the brainchild of Vince McMahon. And you know what I mean? That all that kind of came from Vince. But when we're talking about Bray, a lot of the stuff that came from Bray was Bray.
That's
And
true. He had no
it,
help. That was just him.
that was just him. And so I think that kind of puts into perspective. And another incredible moment when Taker passed Bray Wyatt the torch earlier this year. Like, that was another incredible moment. So we kind of talk about he was a legend in the making. And do I believe there was more in the tank? Absolutely. But the moments that he gave us and the moments that he was a part of were legendary, were incredible, were spectacular. And I went, like you said, my heart goes out to Braun Strowman. My heart goes out to Eric Rowan. And it's just super unfortunate that he had passed away. And in addition to just the on-screen character, you can tell how much he meant to everybody around him. There were videos of the house shows. Seth Rollins broke down in the middle of a ring in a house show because he just didn't have the time to process what happened to Bray. And you saw the Fireflies, and then we go to AEW, which we'll talk about later, and we saw Buddy Matthews bring out the lantern and place it at the feet of Aleister Black, and they kind of bowed to the lantern, respect to him. And then we go to Raw, and we see Becky holding up that armband and just sobbing at the end of the show. He was a light. He was radiant, and he captivated so many people, not just on screen, but behind the scenes, and so many people loved him. And I think that that's kind of the most important thing. We talk about wrestlers and performers and athletes all the time, but how many people do we know that are great in the ring, or good in the ring, or great on the mic, or good on the mic, and their character is totally out of jack? We're going to get to that later. But
and this is all that is what it's about, though. Like the
yeah,
way Bray touched not only the fans but his colleagues and everyone around him. Hell, my dad don't even watch wrestling nowadays, and he fucking knew who Bray Wyatt was, and he was just like,
yeah.
he was tight. He was upset. He was tight. He's just like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way. Like, bro, he touches you in a totally different way. And the crazy thing about being like a wrestler is that you do have to be just a little bit insane or just be a little bit off to do this shit. You know, in a weird way, you really do have to believe in your own shit. But the best thing about being a wrestler is the way you can really amplify your own self and then take to the audience. And that's just what he just did. I don't even know the man, but shit, about time I was done like sifting through all these memories that they were playing to Bray Wyatt. I just broke down crying again, like I done lost my own homie. I was like, damn, like, I'm sorry. You were talking, I almost got emotional. I had to just shed a little.
You're good. You're good. We're gonna move off because like we gotta move. But before we go into the next topic, we just want to say, Bray, thank you. Bray, thank you for everything that you've contributed to this business, every idea that you've made. You wore your heart on your sleeve. You gave us everything that you have, even when when circumstances weren't exactly ideal for you. And we're grateful for you, and we love you, and we're going to miss you. And rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. I'm not taking any comments on this. It's just rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. But we're gonna move on, because in a lighter note, in the midst of all the misery, in the midst of all the tragedy, we kind of experienced one of the most historic days in the history of pro wrestling, for better and for worse, on this past Sunday when AEW presented All In live from London. And it is official that they had the largest paid attendance record in the history of pro wrestling, with 80,035 paid attendees at Wembley Stadium. We saw so many different matches, so many different moments. And just coming from the fallout of All In, I wanted to know some of your takeaways. We'll talk about the CM Punk Jack Perry thing, but just in terms of the show, what were just some standout moments? What were some things that were very, very good and were special to you?
Well, I just want to start off by saying the view of that crowd it made me so proud, bro, to just be a wrestling fan, because a lot of people tend to think that this is just a dying niche to be a fan of. And like just looking at that just made me so proud. Like, bro, I almost felt like I was looking at a Beyonce concert or some shit. I was like, yeah, damn. Like, look how packed out London is. London showed the fuck up and showed out for us. So the presentation was amazing. Every time they did like a little top shot of the whole entire crowd. That shit looked beautiful. It looked immaculate. I love the way they set up the ring, by the way, and the stage. It made for everyone's presentation coming out look phenomenal. So I fucking loved it, and it looked even more prettier as the night went on. So yeah, love that. Wembley Stadium was a great location, like spot on. As far as what was some standout moments that I enjoyed, of course, I mean, we'll get to this one towards the end. But I personally enjoyed the main event. That was actually one of my favorite moments of the night. But I have to give credit where credit's due. As much as I shit on CM Punk, it was probably the best match of the night, and that's a lot coming from me because I don't like any CM Punk matches. Well, at least not from AEW do I like really any CM Punk matches. And I felt like they definitely went hard because we were shitting all over them for their match that they had going into All In. But that ended up, I think, being the match that was at the top of the show, but being the most talked match of the entire night. So definitely love that. Of course, as you mentioned previously, I loved all of the homages to Bray Wyatt that was shown in the entrances. So that's number 2. I kind of didn't mind the women's match that went on. I just wasn't really pleased with the ending, but that was probably another match I did somewhat actually enjoy. And I want to say again, the final match was probably like my biggest takeaway. The last match between Adam Cole and MJF, I thought was a good match. We're gonna dive into more. I know a lot of people dislike the ending. I actually like the ending because to me, all I was expecting, bare minimum, was storytelling. I wasn't really looking for a definitive win. But I thought that as much as it did reflect the E, it did what it had to do, because what invested us into this match is yes, we want to see a damn good match, but we wanted to see storytelling, and we want to know who was going to turn on who, and it still gave us more clues. And it actually shocked me because I know me and you was going at it with like who was going to turn on who between Adam and MJF. You had MJF, I had Adam Cole. I like the way they went about it. They didn't do it in such a harsh way, such a predictable manner. They actually shocked the hell out of us by making MJF maintain the idea that he's normally an asshole. He looks down upon fucking Adam Cole and anyone that comes off like a video game playing basement dweller. And then over the course of what seems to be like 5 or 6 weeks of these boys being joined at the hip, he values the friendship so much that he doesn't even want to win in a dirty manner. He doesn't want to cheat for once. And I thought that was heavier visually watching than what most people are letting on to. I'm like, think about it. He's a fucking asshole. He's a devil for a reason. And the few times he tries to be human, his friend is choosing the belt over their friendship. Like, and it probably makes him sit back and think to himself, well, this is why I have to be a fucking asshole and I have to be heartless. Because the few times I try to care and give a fuck, people just say fuck me in the end. So I thought that was phenomenal storytelling because I didn't really think you could really do much to add layers of character onto MJF's character, but I love the few times they make him a human because it explains why he is the devil. So I love that very much. And I actually didn't mind the fact that, yeah, like they had Roddy go in there, but they didn't make Roddy and Adam Cole team up right away. They let you know that Roddy was a little bit jealous, that I am your best friend. You know? Why are you choosing this punk that didn't even like you 6 weeks ago over me? Like, yo, we got this in the bag. Let's do what we've been normally doing. Let me help you out. And even Adam Cole looked a little conflicted. But at the end, he's still an asshole at heart too, just like MJF. That's probably what binds him at the hip, truthfully. That's why there's probably a little inkling of respect between the both of them, because they're both assholes at heart. He cared about that belt more than anything. So I love the storytelling, and I like the fact they protected it with a roll-up, because the match that we really were thinking about, that everyone wanted for All In, we're going to get that literally on Sunday. And no one's going to complain about it, because I know that they're going to tear that house down. They just wanted to show us who's going to be the heel, who's the baby face. That's all they need to establish in that match, and show who's on whose side. That's just what I think. I know I rambled. So what were your favorite matches, and what did you think about the final match?
So I think, for starters, I was shocked at how good the opener was for the 0 Hour, for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. It was so interesting, because they gave us a main event quality match on the pre-show, right?
Right.
Which I thought, and the fact that they won, and in the fashion that they did, it kept me engaged for the rest of the night, because I was like, wait a minute, if they win the tag titles, is one actually going to turn on the other? Is this friendship going to play a role at the end? Like, what's going to happen? Is there going to be a segment? Huh?
Yeah. No, I actually missed that match. So I actually didn't get a chance to comment on it.
It was really, really good. But it left me engaged throughout the night. So from there, going into the Jack Perry Hook match for the FTW title, I thought that was a really good match. There were moments in there that kind of showed Jack's growth as a heel. And I thought they did a really good job at putting on a hardcore match that didn't come off distasteful. So I think that's another thing. Going into the main card, things that kind of stood out to me, obviously the World Trios tag match, I think was great. The reintroduction of Badass Billy Gunn made for an invigorating and nice story. I feel like with the tag match between Swerve and Christian Cage versus Sting and Darby was phenomenal. Why? Because I think that was
so fun.
That was such a fun match. They gave Sting a really good moment with that hand sticking out of the casket and Swerve spitting on the bat. I think that was a really, really good match. Stadium Stampede was kind of
something years old, and he just went through a table. We didn't forget about that part either.
Yeah, but I think with Stadium Stampede was actually, it was all over the place, but it was chaotic and fun. But I think like you said, I would have to go with the main event as like my favorite match of the night. Joe and CM Punk was also a great match, but I feel like I wasn't shocked that it was a good match, because we're talking about CM Punk and Samoa Joe. These are guys that have shared the ring for the better part of 20 years, and all they needed was an environment where they have the creative freedom to kind of do it again. So I wasn't shocked that was a good match. The main event was, at first I was mad within the main event, but at the end of the main event, I was so happy, because that was a great main event. The attention to detail and storytelling was fantastic, because I'm gonna point out to you a couple things, right? Obviously, the whole, MJF and Adam, MJF not wanting to win in a dirty way, Adam Cole, eventually just like not using the belt to hit him, but trying to like do this the right way, when Roddy was saying, do it. Exactly. And it was just like, oh, wow. Is Adam Cole, number one, picking a side? And number two, what is this going to lead to as the match finish? Obviously, they ended it with a roll up. But the most interesting development of this entire thing to me wasn't Adam Cole or MJF. It was Roderick Strong. Because Roddy has been one of the best wrestlers in the planet for the past 20 years. In any promotion he's either been a main event player or he's been like upper mid card. And I feel like the only thing that Roderick Strong was missing was the fact that he never had something to motivate him, right? I think that one of the things about characters in wrestling is what fuels you, what drives you, what motivates you. Roderick Strong never really had any motivation other than being someone's sidekick or being the best wrestler in the world. And to be completely honest, everybody's the best in the world now. So is it really a valid motivation? But now if you're Roderick Strong, the guy who was my best friend is now best friends with my worst enemy. That pisses me off. That pisses me off. That motivates me. That fuels me. And I think that what we're going to see over the next year is Roderick Strong making an unexpected leap into the main event scene of AEW, because now he has motivation. And now he's going to have matches against like MJF. He's going to have a match against Adam Cole. And it's like, and I think that was the right move, right? Like, I feel like everybody was expecting this undisputed era reunion in AEW. We don't know when Kyle O'Reilly's coming back. We don't know where Roddy stands on a possible reunion. And if you don't have the entire unit, you shouldn't try to replicate that era. So it's best to kind of go about it in a new, invigorating way. And I think that they've done that. And I'm just really, really happy at how that turned out. On a scale of 1 to 10, though, I want to know, what would you give AEW All In?
I'd give it a solid 8. The only reason I'm giving it an 8 is because I didn't agree with some people getting the belt, or I just didn't agree with like certain. Well, not agree. I thought the some matches were just fucking boring. Like, I thought the fucking Young Bucks match dragged out for too long, and like that was a match I actually was excited to see.
Me too.
But they just dragged it out, and it ended up being pretty much forgettable. I highly disagree with Saraya getting the belt simply because she lives in London. It looked cute, but you know. God bless that division. But when I look at the production, the pacing, the way the main event ended, I thought the main event was actually exciting. I actually like the fact that they were so petty that they decided to make them throw it in as a tie and then make them continue. I can only imagine that. Yeah, I know we're frustrated as viewers, but it must have been super exhilarating being in the crowd. In that moment, trying to see what's going on. So I honestly thought that the way that the show was presented to me as a viewer, and then imagining how it is being in the crowd, I feel like an 8's very fair. I think it's fair, because compared to last year, how Tony Khan would book his shows, it would run too late. And I didn't feel like the show felt too long. Yeah, I know we're watching it earlier where I live, but it didn't feel too long, and it didn't feel like there really was a dull moment minus one boring long match.
Yeah.
So yeah, 8.
I agree. I'm going to give it an 8, just like you did. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think the only thing that I would disagree with you on was Saraya. While I would have loved to see Shida walked out that match with the belt, I had to like take time and kind of like pull back and be like, wait a minute. I'm not mad at Saraya winning the belt. And the reason why I say that is because if we base wrestling, right, we always say wrestling is about moments. And if we want to base it off of the quality of the moment that it produced, it delivered, right? Because at one point in her career, regardless of what you feel about the AEW run, at one point in Saraya's career, she wasn't supposed to wrestle again. She was not supposed to wrestle again. And she wasn't supposed to be in a wrestling ring, let alone wrestling in a championship match, let alone wrestling in a championship match in her home country, right? Now, on top of that, what was the one cutaway that we kept seeing during the entire night? We saw Mercedes Moné. We saw Saraya. These two have history. We're going to get into it later in the show, but there's rumors regarding AEW Mercedes Moné. And to be honest, if Mercedes Moné were to take the belt off of anybody, it should be her. And so now we have a quality moment. We have these cutaways that are kind of insinuating something and or building a potential story regarding someone that we've wanted to see in AEW for a long time. And for that, I'm not mad. Not mad at that at all. But I'm not trying to get too deep into that. We want to know how y'all feel about All In. I'm like scrolling because I'm trying to pull my notes up again. But let us know how you felt about the fallout of All In London. But we're going to move into easily the most controversial topic of the week, because one of the things that arguably tainted All In was the backstage stories regarding the incident pertaining to CM Punk and Jack Fumbleboy Perry. That's what I'm calling him now. Jack Fumbleboy Perry and CM Punk. So we'll start off with a general synopsis of what it seems like or what has been reported as to happening. And I'm saying reported because obviously it's all a he say, she say until an official source confirms. So first things first, apparently this incident has roots in Jack having us, planning on doing this match. Punk kind of telling him, hey, don't do that over here, whatever, like the glass stuff, just don't do it. Perry does the FTW championship match against Hook, back suplexes Hook, I think, onto the windshield of the car. He says that's real glass, cry your heart out, uses the B word. That eventually led to either Jack confronting CM Punk or CM Punk confronting Jack, asking if, Punk presumably said, do you have a problem with me? And Jack retorted. Jack struck him or approached him. Punk retaliated and apparently just had him in a headlock and choked him. And that was kind of the end of the incident. They were also kind of like, oh, well, CM Punk and Miro had a little bit of an altercation, but Punk and Miro's was kind of like oh, you want to step outside, but they were joking because they're friends. But like this news and this incident kind of, when it comes to online, kind of remained a constant throughout the night. It just became the source of a lot of chatter. And in my opinion, I think it got in the way of the show. But I want to know how you felt about the incident. I'm trying to figure out if there was any,
Suspension.
anything pertaining to, what is it? Anything pertaining to the fallout. So I just want to know how you feel about the event, feel about all this.
Okay, this is another situation where I don't like CM Punk, but I have to side with him because you cannot run your mouth and then get your ass beat against presumably the worst UFC fighter of all time. I think we all seen the tapes. So I feel like if I was Tony Khan, I'm just going to suspend you solely because, like, why can't none of y'all beat his ass? Like, I could beat his ass. Why can't none of y'all beat his ass? You're embarrassing my promotion at this point. You're supposed to be intimidating. You're supposed to be wrestlers, and you're over here being choked out by this man who probably weighs no more than 140 pounds, soaking wet. Like, that was number one. Number two, I don't think Jungle Boy should have done that because I feel like we should have learned from last year that we need to stop taking attention away from big shows and big events, and let's just stay on the topic and work as a team. If you don't like the person, stay on the other end. As far as I know, CM Punk actually tried to like remove certain names from being on Collision so that we could try to prevent this, and it just seems like wherever he goes, drama does follow him, and I don't want to side with him because I do not like CM Punk, but at the same time, if someone's running their mouth and they start with me, bitch, I'm gonna swing back. However, in another instant, you could look at it like this and be like, well, did Jungle Boy really not really deserve, but is he really worth putting pause on? Because again, Jungle Boy doesn't look like he could hurt a fly. I don't know what Jungle Boy thought he could do or was going to do, but he did not do a damn thing as far as I know. But the way Punk kind of handled it, I kind of respect it because not only did he handle his ass, but he went out and put on the best show of the night. So it's like, I kind of respect it, but also this kind of needs to stop. So where does it stop? Where does all this fighting when we have big events stops? I saw a report somewhere where they were saying that the both of them was allegedly getting suspended, but especially Jack Perry was getting suspended since he's basically the one that started it. But it's like, when does this all stop to where y'all could like focus on the task at hand? We're lucky that it started in the beginning of the show and not at the end to where we could have a repeat of last year. But at the end of the day, I also just feel like y'all shouldn't be doing this really at all. Just mind your business. Really, honestly, just mind your... It's glass. It's fucking glass of all things to be arguing about. And you got choked out anyways. If you're going to pick a fight with CM Punk, you better mop his ass. Mop his ass and suspend him because that's embarrassing. That's really fucking embarrassing. All right? If I was Anna Jay, he would get no coochie. He would get no coochie for the rest of the year. Because how you losing to like a damn near 50-year-old man? No, it was probably a really quiet drive home on the plane. Sorry, fly home on the plane. But that's just my take. Jordan, how do you feel about this?
So here's my stance on this. I agree with everything that you said. If you're going to pick a fight, win the fight. That's number one. Number two, I feel like this isn't by accident. One of the things that I've noticed ever since the return of CM Punk is that there's always something surrounding CM Punk, whether it is related to CM Punk or not. There's reports leaked. Oh, he got this person banned from backstage. He sent this person home. But as someone who has, and I've, temporarily for a very short time, I worked for WWE as a production assistant. People get sent home all the time.
Your resume is really astonishing. Wow.
Huh?
Just impressive. No, your resume is just impressive.
Listen,
everywhere.
Listen, I'm everywhere, baby. But like, people get sent home all of the time for non-personal reasons. And I'm pretty sure that whoever got sent home in these leaked reports, like, there have been other people that were sent home and it just wasn't reported about it. But I feel like ever since Punk has come back to AEW, there's been kind of this agenda to get him out because there is a certain amount of people that don't want him in AEW. So I think there's that aspect and that element. I also think that if something is backstage, keep it backstage. And here's what I mean by that. Clearly, Punk confronted you about something privately and said, listen, whatever you're doing here, maybe this isn't the best option. Maybe you shouldn't do this. Or maybe it was just a don't do this here. You know what I mean? Type of thing. He said it to you in private, right? And if you disagreed or agreed with it, you could have addressed it privately. But the fact that you went on TV and said a remark regarding an incident that had nothing to do with the match shows me your level of immaturity. It shows me you wanted to get one over on somebody else. It shows me you wanted to provide yourself with a moment that was going to stroke your ego. It informed me that you just wanted the spotlight to kind of do something that otherwise you probably wouldn't have the license to do. I think that was number three. I was just essentially saying that this was a private thing, and then you kind of went and you did your pre-show match and you used it as a platform to air out this private grievance that had nothing to do with the match. And it's just like, why would you do that? So then there's that element. And I just personally think that if you're going to pick a fight with somebody, you need to win the fight. If you're going to pick a moment in your match to air out a personal private grievance, don't like get mad when somebody checks you. Because yes, I am going to check you. Like, hey, bro, like I was just trying to do something right by you. If you don't agree with it or you feel like you have a different way of going about it, that's fine. That's cool. But why would you go out in public and do that when I went to you in private to deal with you? Mm-hmm. I think that that's just weird. Yeah. And to be honest, if you did that to me, I'm definitely snuffing you. And to be honest, I think that both parties deserve to be suspended, but I do think that Jack Perry has to receive the heavier suspension because you used a moment. Number one, you barely made it on the pre-show. Number two, you were going to use a moment where you can drive your character forward as a heel in this match, and you're going to use it to air out a private grievance, which you didn't really have to do. And then on top of that, the moment and the incident that you instigated tainted the biggest moment in the history of the company.
Made it all about you.
You made it all about you because you didn't like the fact that someone said don't use glass. What?
They're soft. The whole company's soft.
what are you, 12? Like the fact that AEW All in London had more paid attendees than WrestleMania 32, which is considered the biggest attendance record in the history of pro wrestling. The fact that AEW just broke that record, but everybody's still talking about you, means that you drove an incident that got in the way of the history and the reputation and the brand of the company. Now, granted, AEW put on a great event, and because of that, this incident didn't wash out the other, but you put yourself at risk. You put yourself at the company at risk. Now, apparently, there have been also other reports of how Punk got to the airport in London, and there was nobody there to do his transportation, nobody there that was taking care of him, right? And then on top of that, there were reports of like him going at Tony Khan, threatening to leave the company. What I will say regarding Punk is, if you really want to leave, bro, just leave. Clearly.
Oh yeah, what a bitch about that, by the way. Like, come on, bro. Like, you're a fucking wrestler. You're in another continent. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit's not gonna be like, it's not gonna go as planned in the beginning.
Right.
You know, traveling out to a different continent, so you kind of just gonna have to adjust. Like, they're not used to seeing like Americans coming in like that for these grandiose events. Like, you guys are kind of like part of the beginning of history with all this type of stuff before you guys start to tighten loose strings. I feel like him taking that plus the Jungle Boy incident and being like, oh, I want to fucking quit, to me is lame. Like, you're a veteran, A. B, after all the crap that you put us through last year, we still gave you the belt back. We're still trusting to put you on a show, and you're gonna sit here and complain and threaten to quit. Like, I don't know. I feel like, to me, again, it's just another reflection about how much pull he knows that he has in this company, but also the lack of respect he does have. Like, I feel like he feels like he's at the top, and so long as he's at the top, like, he could do whatever he wants to do. Like, you don't make threats like you don't make threats like that, because if you make threats like that, if it was Vince McMahon, right? If he was like sitting in WWE trying to pull that shit, he'd be like, all right, bro, like, it's a wrap. Like, right. Walk out. Like, hand me your belt. Like, is that how you really feel? I'll put the belt on someone else tonight, and we could just rinse our hands of you, because what the fuck is this? Threatening that you want to leave. To me, that's my only ick about Punk amongst anything that he pulled throughout that whole incident. Him threatening to leave, he needs to cut that shit. I feel like the whole company's fucking soft, and everyone needs to grow a fucking spine and handle their shit privately. And if you have an issue, take that shit to Tony. Stop sitting here trying to threaten that you want to leave. Stop trying to put pause on other people. Focus on your fucking job, because you guys almost ruined one of the biggest nights in pro wrestling.
And I think we're going to end that segment on that note. Let us know how you feel about this CM Punk Jack Perry feud, because it's definitely interesting to say the least, but we're going to be moving on. So, the other eventful thing that happened at AEW All in London was the appearance of Mercedes Moné. Mercedes was in the stands taking in the event. She had a boot on. The camera was consistently cutting back to her during the course of the night. Tony Khan in the post-media scrum said that she isn't cleared for action yet, and Saraya uttered that she would love to see Mercedes in AEW, and she can't wait to work with her, and she can't wait for Mercedes to kind of work in AEW in some capacity, way, shape, or form. I wanted to know, seeing Mercedes Moné at All in London, how did you feel about that? To see Mercedes, even though it was in a very, very minuscule role, how did it feel to see Mercedes in AEW?
Oh, I was super excited. First of all, she looked at bomb. Like that wig that she had on, that little London inspired wig she had on, that shit was fire. She looked beautiful as always. I expected less from Miss Mercedes. But, I mean, I wasn't surprised that she was there, just because she's a fan of pro wrestling. Like, not just a WWE girl, not just a New Japan girl. She is just a fan of pro wrestling, and I think that is really cute that honestly she took the time to fly herself out and show up to one of the most historic events in wrestling history. So, did I immediately think that she's going to AEW? Not quite, but I could still see it. You mentioned earlier you could see her mixing it up with Saraya. That's a very easy way to introduce her. Do I personally think that I care to see her started off with Saraya? Not really, but I think it'd be. I think that quite possibly she was there to watch as a viewer, but also to probably see and witness the show in real time. Of like, all right, is this a promotion I want to work with? God forbid I want to just cut ties with New Japan. I already got my little ick off because she already she's been in New Japan for around what, a year now. You know what I mean? She said that's one of her dreams. And I don't really think there's a lot for Miss Mercedes to be doing out there in Japan. I mean, I feel like she gave us a lot of content, but I feel like if she really wants to like continue her legacy, I personally want to see her, if not back in WWE, which I fully respect if she don't want to come back. I feel like she is definitely needed in AEW. They need to have an actual veteran. We brought this up in the group chat. I feel like they could straighten shit the fuck out if they brought people who know how to hold themselves in this business, and they have somebody for other wrestlers. Hold on, let me stick this earbud out. I feel like it would be helpful if they had a wrestler to look up to, someone who is used to being the face of a company, someone that's used to carrying a title and being held to a high regard, someone that's used to putting on 5-star matches, someone who's used to working solo in a tag team, in a faction or whatnot, someone who is used to seeing collab deals, that knows how to brand themselves inside and outside of the wrestling company. Like, I feel like if they had someone to basically model, and they probably thought they were going to get that with Saraya, and we didn't. If we had someone like Miss Mercedes, I feel like it would help straighten that company out, and they definitely could like use her creative input on how to help some of the females with their creative direction, whether it's within their characters, whether it's within their storylines. Like, I feel like she would have such amazing input because she's seen it all. She's worked as low as being in the indies, and she's traveled all around the world. So I hope that her and Tony Khan are in good talks. Maybe they could like introduce her here and there with like a one-off match just to tease her. But I think that this division strongly needs someone like Mercedes. That is what the women are missing. And I feel like if we can't get the men to straighten out their bullshit over there, they could definitely correct what's going on with the women, with her. So that's all I have to say about that. How do you feel about Mercedes' appearance?
I'm going to make this super duper quick. First and foremost, I think that Mercedes appearing at All In made this event that much bigger. We know the crossover appeal that she has. We know how appealing she is to wrestling fans. We know how big of a deal she is in the world of wrestling. Obviously, she's injured. The last time we saw her in a ring was against Willow for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, arguably a championship that was made for her. But I feel like this was a very, very good move. I think this implies that we're probably going to see Mercedes in AEW sometime soon. I personally can't wait because I know what she brings to the table. And I believe that while AEW may not have the best women's booking, I do believe that they are stacked with talent. And there are so many possibilities that Mercedes has in AEW, whether it's Saraya, Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter, Britt Baker. The options and the possibilities are limitless. But we're not even going to waste that much time. We want to know how you guys feel about Mercedes appearing at All in London. We're going to move straight into our predictions for Chicago's All Out, which is this Sunday live from Chicago. All right, boom. First match of the night, we have Miro versus Powerhouse Hobbs. Who do you have in this match?
I feel like they're doing more with Hobbs lately, so I'm going to go with Hobbs.
I agree. I'm going to go with Hobbs as well. Next, we have the Kenny Omega versus Konosuke Takeshita match. Who do you have? One-on-one, Kenny versus Konosuke.
I felt like after what I saw in All In, they made Takeshita look like a threat. So I'm gonna go with him because like my eyes are zeroed in on him, the bullshit he was on. Yeah, him.
I'm gonna go with Kenny Omega because even though he looked like a threat, he won with a roll up. I think it was designed for him to get a cheap win over Kenny, but I feel like if it's a one-on-one, no distractions, no BS type of match, Kenny is taking that. I'll be very, very surprised if Konosuke goes 2-0 on Kenny Omega. Next, we have the AEW TBS Championship match. We have Chris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. Who do you have in this match?
I would love to see Ruby get a win. Could be pretty cool if the Outcast actually had two women finally get some gold. But I have a feeling since we have not seen too many Chris appearances and title defenses, I think they would want to keep it on her. That's just what I'm guessing.
I think Ruby's going to win. I think that Ruby's going to win that title. We're going to get a nice shot of Saraya and Ruby with their respective championships. I believe that this is going to be the beginning of the end of Toni Storm in the Outcast. So I feel like in order for that to happen, Ruby got to win. Now we have the AEW International Championship match between Orange Cassidy and Penta El Cero Miedo. And the winner is supposed to face Jon Moxley for this championship. So, who do you have, Orange Cassidy or Penta?
I personally want Penta, but I feel like Orange Cassidy is probably going to take it.
I agree. I'm going to go with Orange Cassidy. I think that him and John is going to be the end of Orange Cassidy's reign as the AEW International Championship. I believe that it's time for John to have another belt. And the next and the last and the final match for the AEW TNT Championship match, Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin. Who do we have?
Luchasaurus versus Darby Allin. I'm going to give it a Darby.
I'm going to give it to Darby as well. It's going to be very interesting, though, to see who touts that TNT championship, if it's Luchasaurus or if it's Christian Cage, because you know that he likes to carry around the belt. But I'm going to go with Darby, and I'm going to expect to see a feud between Christian Cage and Luchasaurus coming out of this, considering that there's been this unknown, unspoken tension. But that can conclude our predictions. We want to know what yours are. Let us know in the comments below, and join us for the space this Sunday as we watch All In Together. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining the show. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.